За сайн байцгаана бүгдээрээ. Подкаст энэ удаагийн дугаарт би Японд амьдарч байгаа амьдрах хугацаанд олон жилээр Английн багш болоод миссионерийн үйлчлэлийг хийж байгаа сайн найзуулах Эллис Гандигаа зуллаа. Энэ удаагийн ярилцлагаас та бүхэн Английн багшлахад ямар бэрхшээл болоод Солонгос болоод Япон хүмүүсийн хооронд ямар ялгаа байдаг талаар энэ ярилцлагаас үзээрэй. За тэгээд let's go. So today I invited Ellis, my good friend from Tokyo, Japan.
Amen. Brothers.
Yes, and he's a missionary and artist and English teacher, and he's lived in Japan many years. So I think that's the short intro. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay, sure. Thank you, my brother Paul. Great teacher, great guy. So yeah, my name is Ellis Gandhi. I am from USA, Chicago, Illinois. I came to Japan as a missionary from 2009, and I have been there in this country since then. I am a small group church leader, and I teach the Bible, and I do Bible research, and I also fund my missions work through teaching art class. And my art school, where I am now, it's an art studio, is a place where I teach people English through art. And I try to help them lose their fear and pressure of learning English by painting. And hopefully they will just grow organically to speak the language. And yeah, that's what I do.
What really motivated you to teach English in the beginning?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The reason I didn't want to teach English in the beginning, right? Like in the beginning, I trained in university as an artist, but it was because I studied karate in high school and in college. I studied karate, and I still have all my belts upstairs. I have not all of them. I have my brown belt upstairs.
So, to get brown belts, how many belts you have to go through?
Well, my style of karate, there are many styles, right? What they call ryuha, right? Many styles of karate. My style, there was white, yellow, blue, green, purple, then brown. So there's 5 belts before brown. Yeah. And then next after, I'm sorry.
Okay, you go on.
Next belt after brown is black. So I kind of stopped right before I got the black belt.
The black belt is the final stage of learning, mastering.
It's the final stage of foundation learning.
Foundation learning.
Yeah, but black belt has many levels, what they call dan. First dan, second dan, keep going higher than shihan. You are a master of different schools, right? Yeah. But anyway, so I studied karate, and that made me interested in Japan. So I wanted to go to Japan so much that the easiest way to get there was teaching English as an English teacher. Yeah. And then what?
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt, but what age was that when you had that inspiration?
The inspiration to go to Japan?
Yes.
I was maybe 18.
18?
Yeah, I was 18. And actually, the guys in my karate dojo in Chicago, we all made an agreement, a sacred agreement. We shook hands, all of us together. We said, all of us, we're going to Japan to train in karate.
Wow.
And nobody went, just me.
Okay. That really sounds like some scene from anime.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's what it was like. Yeah. But nobody honored the agreement. I was the only one that did it, you know. So yeah, that's how I got here.
And then after you landed, what were the challenges and hurdles you faced, especially in this career of, teaching a language to Japanese?
Well, okay, I don't know if you know this, but I didn't go straight to Japan. I went to Korea first.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? Yeah. So what happened was, I was 27 and I had it graduated from college. I was free for 2 years, graduated, and I was sleeping in my parents' house on their sofa. And I just got so tired of sleeping on the sofa. And
Mm.
so I applied to a teaching position in Japan with a
Ah,
company called Nova.
Nova.
But unfortunately, Nova went bankrupt the
Oh,
same month that they interviewed me.
wow, that's bad news.
Yeah, so I did really great in the interview, and they said, Ellis, you're going to Japan. Good job, man. You're going to Japan.
Uh-huh.
And they never called me back. And I checked on Wikipedia and I found out that week they just went bankrupt and closed.
I see. So
So
to
mm,
check my understanding, when you researched and did this interview, you were located in South Korea.
no, I was in Chicago.
Oh, okay, okay.
So I was in Chicago. So what happened was I wanted to go to Japan
Uh-huh.
and I couldn't go because that company went bankrupt. And then 6 months later, some of those company workers made a new company
Oh,
and they had my phone number.
uh-huh.
And they said, Hey, Ellis, do you still want to go to Asia? And I said, What do you mean Asia? Why did you say Asia? I
Uh-huh.
want to go to Japan. Why did you say Asia? So they sent me to Korea. So I spent 1 year in Korea first.
Oh,
And yeah, that was my first experience teaching English was in Korea.
okay.
Yeah. So that maybe that changes your interview. I don't know.
A little bit, yes.
Like
But yeah, let's start from there then, okay? So difficulties and
okay.
challenges in Korea and then move on to Japan.
Okay. That's a great idea. Because they are different, very different countries. I
Mhm.
was prepared for Japan. You
Yeah.
know, I had studied Japanese in university. It was my minor. I studied the culture. So
Mhm.
when I went to Korea, the first challenge was I was angry that
Mhm.
I was in Korea.
Oh.
So the first 2 months I was there, I didn't try to connect with anybody. I didn't try to eat the food. Um, as soon as the plane door opened in Seoul, the kimchi smell hit me, you know, like I was shocked. I said, "What is that? What is that?" But I really fell in love with Korea. The people were so open, very
Mm.
open,
Mm.
sometimes too much open, you know.
Mm.
And and because they were open, their English was very, very good.
Oh, so they spoke a lot.
Yeah, because they weren't afraid to make mistakes.
Mm.
They didn't care, you know. So the young people spoke really good English.
Wow.
Yeah, and they would try to speak to me all day in the school, you know.
Mm.
So after 1 year, I made lots of good friends in Korea, and they were actually a little angry that I was leaving to go to Japan.
Oh, okay.
Some of them told me, "Yeah, why are you going there? Why are you leaving here?" I was
You
like,
know,
"Oh, it was hard." And half of me also didn't want to leave.
because of
I enjoyed
relationship and country.
yeah, the relationship, the country. I fell in love with kimchi. You know? I when I came home to America to visit, I hugged my mom and She smelled kimchi all over me and in my body.
Uh-huh.
But the Korean people, they have a system what they call hyong. And
Yeah.
hyong is like, I'm your older brother. It doesn't matter if we're related, even if we're not related by blood. You're my friend and I'm older than you, so I'll be like a big brother to you. So I had that there, so it was great.
I see. So students were very open and easy to talk. Sometimes as an English teacher, I had the problem, getting students to talk because they wouldn't talk, right? So, you know, teaching in Korea, you didn't have that. The
I
students
did not have that problem.
students who are naturally talkative, they wanted to communicate. And
Generally. I mean, you always have some shy child in any country, right? Any community.
right.
But generally, they were very outgoing.
Oh.
And oh, Ellis Sonsenim, they call you like teacher or Mr.
Yeah.
Sonsenim. Ellis Sonsenim. Hey, I like kimbap. Do you like kimbap? And yeah, always talking. And I think in the streets, you would just teenagers, they would just talk to you. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Hey, and I was like, wow, this is, yeah. Now, of course, sometimes, the English was too good and they will say some rude things in
Oh.
English, Yeah. So there's one of the differences between Japan. I'm sure we'll get into that next, I guess. But yeah, it was great teaching experience. And I taught the teachers as well. I taught the teachers English too.
Oh, the Korean local teachers.
Yeah, in the elementary schools, maybe once a week, all the teachers, we would get together in the library. They asked me, teach us.
Oh,
So I thought that was, wow. Oh, great.
they also wanted to improve their English.
Yeah, they did. And I'm saying wow now, but back then I didn't know how amazing that was because I didn't come to Japan yet. So I was just like, oh, this is cool, yeah.
Okay. So when that happened, it was how many years ago?
I was 27, so that was in 2007.
2000.
So that was like,
wow.
what,
I was
13,
just a student. I was just what? 2007. I was just a freshman, no, sophomore that year.
sophomore university.
Yeah, university. That time I was just starting to learn the English.
Hey, don't make me sound old, okay? Like, I was just a student.
Yeah.
I feel new gray hairs coming out now.
Yeah.
Right now, new gray hair is coming. I feel it. I
You
feel
feel
it
it.
popping out.
Okay, don't worry. I'll try to think of something to make you feel young.
Thank you. It's too late. It's too late.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
then, after spending a year, you relocated to Japan.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And
Did you
I
get
first came to
did you get
Oh,
a
sorry.
job offer, or how did that transact?
Well, what happened was first I left Korea and I went to Japan just for 2 weeks, just to relax and kind of vacation and have fun and a little bit looking for a job.
Ah.
And then I went home to America for maybe 2 or 3 months. And then, yeah, I got my first job in Japan at an Eikaiwa, which is local English school. People come there children come there after school, and maybe mothers come throughout the day, right? And it was way out, way in the countryside, far away from Tokyo, very small town, no train station. And yeah, it was quite the experience. Yeah. when I first came to Japan, well, for one thing, compared to Korea, the Japanese are much more, they're much more shy, reserved.
Yeah.
They don't share what, yeah, you know, they don't share what they're really feeling, you know.
Mm.
There were times in Korea where I almost got into fights, like fist fight with
Wow.
somebody, you know, maybe once or twice, almost, you know,
Almost.
but that never happened in Japan, you know.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. I see.
Yeah. So when I was in Japan, I learned that most everybody, I was surprised how little or how low the English level was
Mm.
compared to people in Japan, and even especially in young people as well.
Mm.
Um, and I learned now, I must say, where I was in Japan in the countryside is pretty different from being in Tokyo. Okay.
Mhm.
The further away you live from the big cities in Japan, the more relaxed and open people are.
Oh, really?
Okay.
I never
Oh
experienced.
yeah, yeah.
I only
Oh
interacted with the city people.
no, yeah, yeah. You can't, if the further away you go, yeah. I've been in the countryside when I was in Japan, and people ask me from far away, from down the road, what kind of person are you? I was like, what? They said, Nani-ji, like
Oh.
what race or what country, and I said, oh, I'm American. They said, okay, come on, come on. And I said, no, 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 no. I'm a missionary. Only a little alcohol is okay, just a little bit. Um, so it was a nice transition
Mhm.
from Korea to Tokyo. The
Uh-huh.
countryside of Japan, yeah, the people are more open, not as much as Korea, but
Mm.
they are more open. Yeah.
Mm.
And the further east, no, the further west you go, like Kansai and Osaka, the
Oh, yeah.
people are almost just like Korea.
Oh,
Yeah, especially Osaka, you know.
I heard
So I've
I heard
never,
say yes. I heard the same thing. The Osakas, they're completely different. They're more open and talkative.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. And the people in Tokyo or in Kanto, this not Kanto, yeah, Kanto, this area, they say that Osaka people are not Japanese.
Oh.
That's what they say. But I have some friends from Osaka that say I don't like Tokyo people.
Oh.
Ellis, why do you live there? Come out here, live with us in Osaka. I say, okay, okay. Um, but anyway, so yeah, in Ibaraki, but some things are the same all over Japan. Less in Osaka, but there is still the Hone and Tatemae, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hone and Tatemae is like basically two masks,
Mm.
but people show you
Mm-hmm.
that's the Tatemae, what they want you
Mm.
to see,
Yeah.
and what they really feel or think is the Hone, which is inside, they keep hidden,
Oh,
right?
I see.
So in Korea, there's none of that.
Mm.
I'm sorry.
I can relate with Koreans rather than Japanese.
Yeah, yeah. When I was in Korea, it like if people like you, you will know they like you.
Yeah.
If they don't like you, you will know they don't like you. There's no mystery.
In Japan, it's opposite.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. In Japan, and that goes back like to the language thing, you cannot learn. It's very difficult to learn language if
mm.
you're not going to be open and well, if you're not going to be honest with your feelings, you probably are not going to talk as much either, right? Because if
Mm.
you're not
I
going to
think
be
so.
if you're afraid to be honest about how you really feel or telling people how you feel,
Mm.
you spend too much time pretending. So in Japan, people like even last night, I here in my art English school, I was talking to 3 ladies class. It's 3 young ladies. They come here to learn, and they paint, and we start before we start the painting. We spend about maybe 30 minutes just talking, conversation, and it feels like an interview. It feels like I'm just talking at them, and they and so I've told them many times, you have to jump in. You have to jump in the conversation. If you hear something that, oh, I had the same experience, you should jump in the conversation and say something. And they said to me, Japanese style, Ken. We can't, it's so hard for us to do it. That's what they said, not me. They said that. Okay. So it's true. It's true.
So the number one problem, I'm sorry, the number one problem was that the communication. Is,
yeah. The communication and the openness of the heart affects communication, because the reason the Koreans were so good is that it's not because they're smarter. That's not what it's not. We're all humans. It's just that they don't care if they make a mistake or if they offend you. They don't care. But when you don't care about that, you're going to keep speaking. And as you keep speaking, you will get better. You will get better, right?
It's funny, I'm an introvert person, but when it comes to learning foreign language.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's unbelievable. I can't believe you're an introvert. Really?
At least in my introspection, I'm introvert. But when I learn and speak, with people and in foreign language, somehow this mode is turned off or turned down, and I want to express more myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they say introvert does not mean shy. It just means you get more energy from quiet time. That's what I read when I searched introvert. And yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because Japan is a country of, in my opinion, is a whole country of introverts.
That's strange.
Nothing wrong with being an introvert. Nothing wrong with that. But if everybody, mostly the culture, is introvert, then that creates some problems. Individually, if you're an introvert and that other person, that's fine. But if the whole culture is like introvert, that will create some problems, especially with language learning.
Okay. So, I'm just trying to sum up the basic problems in a simple way, is that, it's very hard to communicate with your Japanese students because of their, unopenness, or their hesitancy to express themselves, directly. So does it go both ways, to teachers and students? That's great difficulties for you and for them as well.
What do you mean? Do you mean, do I have a problem being open? You mean?
I mean, when students are not open and do not talk freely, does it make the teaching hard for you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know this. You're a teacher also. Yeah, I know, but you have to ask the question because you're interviewing. But yeah, right. It can make me feel very uncomfortable, because when you're a teacher, you have a lesson plan, maybe. Most teachers make some kind of lesson plan,
right?
And if no one is talking, then the lesson plan, it changes from an hour-long lesson plan to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Now the whole plan is finished. What do we do? Because nobody's.
When the students put in the work, it just takes away half of teacher's work. It just makes so much easier.
Well, yeah. It's easier, and that's the way it's supposed to be. right? Like if I have in my notes, okay, 20 minutes open conversation time. How was your week? Okay, that's what I have it, the little dot.
I
Okay.
can relate to that so much.
Right? Yeah. And that 20 minutes is done. It's finished in 5 minutes because nobody's talking.
Yeah.
Now what would no. So I have to come up with some techniques to get people to speak, you know? So for example, I never ask yes, no questions.
I see.
Yes, no questions are a conversation killer. You know, like if I say, so did you have a good weekend? Yes. In Japan, that will be the answer. If you ask, did you have a good weekend? They'll just say, most people, yes. And that's it. If I'm in America and I say, hey, did you have a good weekend? Oh yeah, man. Let me tell you what I did. I watched this, we went here, and it'll change to a 30-minute conversation. But in Japan, if I ask the same question, it's 1 second, maybe nibyo, 2 seconds. Yes, no. So I don't ask yes, no questions in the conversation class.
I see.
I say, so how was your weekend? Oh,
Okay.
oh, and they're like, oh wow. I can't escape. I have to talk.
And okay, I want to move our conversation to a little bit more, foreign language for you. So that would be Japanese.
Okay.
Okay. So can you share a specific instance where your foreign language skills were very valuable?
My foreign language skills, you mean my ability to speak Japanese?
Correct.
Correct. I like that. Very professional. Let's see. Well, I mean, for me, I've been living in Japan for 15 years, so just living and surviving in this country, getting lost on trains, traveling places, not knowing where, I had a situation happen where I was in the train station and the train conductor guy was sitting on a high platform and I was lost. I didn't know where to go. And I asked him, where should I go to find whatever. And he looked at me and he turned away. He ignored me. It's like when something like that happens and you're lost and you're a foreigner, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right. Now that's very rare in Japan. Like usually no one will do that to you. I don't know why. Maybe he had a bad day. But it was because of my foreign language skills that eventually I was able to find my way. Right. Also in Japan, because it's introverted, going back to the introverted thing, because it's introverted, you will have to go out of your way to speak to people and initiate conversation and relationship. It's very rare that anyone will try to talk to you, which is the opposite in Korea. When I was in Korea, I had lots of people trying to talk to me. When I went to China, I had people trying to talk to me. Many people in China. They've never seen a black guy. So they were like, hey, let me talk to you. Hey, can you take a picture? I said, sure. They said, no, with me. I said, what? Okay, like what? Bye. So that's China and Korea. And in your country, when I've met people from your country, very open-hearted, very warm, very direct, and I appreciate that. Right, very direct, right?
But I observe, people who lived a long time in Japan sort of, learn the Japanese ways.
Yeah. When you say learn the Japanese ways, what do you mean? Do you mean what you really mean is they convert?
I'm not sure, they act and speak like Japanese,
That's what I mean by convert. Yeah.
Yeah.
They turn to, because in this culture, this is a culture of conformity. Do you understand?
Understand.
Conformity.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a culture of conformity, even in their own people. Besides foreigners, right?
Yeah.
So going the opposite direction or being different, being special, that is discouraged in this country, So that's one of the reasons why foreigners have such a hard time here, because many Japanese innately, naturally kind of run away. Maybe not literally, but figuratively, emotionally, they kind of run away from foreigners because they're different.
But
right?
I just sort of sense the younger Japanese, are more tolerant. They want to make friends. They want to be
Definitely.
More intermingle with foreigners. Do you think so?
Definitely. That's true. That's
As
definitely
opposed
true.
to older Japanese.
Yeah. I find that the easiest people to communicate with in Japan are very young people and very old people. Those are the two that are the easiest to communicate with. The very young ones, they haven't lived in this culture long enough to be affected by it, right?
Right.
I've seen this in the elementary schools. The kids run up to me, they hug me, they smell me, they inyoe, good smell. But as they're doing that, I look at the adult teachers watching, and they are like scratching their heads. They don't understand. So it's like you see two different generations right there in the same room, how they interact with a foreigner. You see both. It's very wild, But the very old Japanese are, I would say that they're so kind of tired of no one communicating. That right, that they're because they're in their old age of life, right? They're at the age where people need to check on them, and you should call them and check on them, and how are you, and how are you doing, and people aren't doing that, right? You see many old people walking down the street alone. They can't even hardly walk, and there's no one there to help them, So when you talk to them, they look so happy,
So, when you were learning Japanese, as an American, what kind of difficulties did you encounter, language-wise?
When I was learning Japanese as an American, I think that the first difficulty was, well, the biggest one, of course, was the writing system doesn't use any alphabet. That's the biggest challenge, I think, for most Americans when they're learning an Asian language.
Yeah.
Is that there's no alphabet, right? Like after studying Japanese and using it for 15 years, last week I started looking at some French, and it was like so easy. It was so easy because the French words, like French and English both have roots in Latin. So many French words I can understand just by looking at them, And so living in Asia for so long, it made me appreciate, Western languages, like Spanish and French, because we use the same alphabet. So that was a challenge first, is learning how to write these in Japanese has 3,
Yeah, it's so many.
Yeah, katakana, hiragana, kanji. And many Japanese don't even know all kanji, They know maybe 2,000. You need about 2,000 kanji to operate in Japan, but there are many more than that. Right. Of course, the second challenge living in Japan is, ironically, many people that will talk to you, that are confident talking to you, want to use English. They don't want to use Japanese. So, right, like the Japanese people that won't speak English, they're difficult to talk to, right? Because they're shy.
Yeah.
But the Japanese people that are not shy and want to talk, they want to use English. So I will try to speak in English. I say, konnichiwa. And they say, good afternoon. I said, suimasen, kono hen ni ramen ya arimasu ka? Oh, you want ramen? I said, stop. Use Japanese, please. 日本語で話したい. So yeah, that's another challenge. Yeah.
I think, because you look so different, you look so Western. I think that's kind of problem in you and other Americans and Europeans face. Now, when I speak in broken Japanese, they don't try to speak in English.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they just try it one more time, but in a slow and 簡単に日本語で.
Okay. Oh, so you mean, is it because you're Asian?
I think I look so alike, many Japanese.
Yeah.
I don't really stand out from the crowd.
Yeah. That's like me when I went to Morocco. And in Morocco, people come up to me and they say, assalamu alaikum. I say, I'm sorry, what? And they, American. Yeah. So yeah, I understand how you feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I look like Moroccan guy. You look like you could be Japanese guy. Yeah.
And I think that's part of your an ethnicity.
Yeah, definitely.
And do you have any future goals related to foreign language learning? I assume it's the Japanese.
Yeah, so now that I have quit the elementary schools, I think, we talked about this before. I want to focus more on missionary work.
Yes.
So that means that I need more Japanese language skill. I need much more. So I want to go back to Japanese language school. So I'm planning to do that in the fall.
Okay. So you want to take your language to the next level.
Exactly. Definitely. Because, as a missionary, daily Japanese for me it's not really a problem, right? Talking about directions and the movie I saw, 1週間前、新しいゴジラの映画を見ましたね。だから、今日は YouTube チャンネル新しいビデオ is a Godzilla reaction. ね。その感じ that kind of Japanese is easier for me. I can do. But talking about God and spiritual things and deep religious theology in Japanese, my level is not there yet. And that's why I'm in the country. So I need to study that.
Really? I thought otherwise. When I attended your seminar, when you mix English and Japanese to give God's message, the Japanese commentary really helps add color.
But I want to do more outreach to Japanese outside this place, right? So I have to use more fluent. I need enough Japanese fluency to make them forget that I'm trying to use Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to think, oh, you're doing very good. I want them to hear my message. So I need more fluency to make them forget this is a foreigner speaking English. I mean, speaking Japanese.
At the end, so I want to give you just opportunity to, to free space to share what you want to share, be it language, be it missionary work, and anything, that you want to say from Ellis Gandhi.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you, sir. I will say this, as a missionary, as a artist, and as a language teacher, one thing in common those three things have is communication. Communication. If you're a missionary, it's important to communicate the gospel message clearly, right, to people from other cultures. And so communication is very key because everybody's not American where I'm from. They're not going to understand. Maybe they've never even read a Bible before, right? There are some places in the world that have never even, it's amazing, but some of them have never heard the name Jesus before, So communication is key for a missionary because you're crossing borders and frontiers to new countries.
Yes.
As an artist, communication is also key because that's what an artist does. An artist is communicating something that's invisible. They're making it visible, right? On canvas, on paper, to communicate feelings and emotions that you can't see, right? I can't see love, grace, excitement. Those are ideas, right? So art puts that into physical, visual touch and world for people to understand. So artists communicate. We communicate visually. And art is an international language, right? Because you don't have to understand English or Japanese or Mongolian, but everybody that has working eyes or working ears can, or even just fingers touch, can read and understand art's language, right? So I use art with my missions work as well, to help illustrate the gospel. And then, of course, as an English teacher, language communication, once again is key. Being able to communicate with people, showing students, especially children, showing them that language is not simply about getting a good grade. I think in Japan, especially, that is what makes many kids hate English, because their parents have taught them that you study English to get a good grade, a high TOEIC score, high ACAN score, and they don't understand. No, you study language to communicate with your fellow human. It's lack of communication that actually causes wars and disputes in the world, right? A human being is not able to understand each other's goals, needs, country's goals, needs, why we're angry, right? All of these things we have in the wars today. So I try to teach my kids, my students, that communication, understanding your fellow human being, that is the whole reason since the beginning of the dawn of human history. That's what's been the biggest problem, right? It's us, right, causing problem on the earth through lack of communication. So learning language is the way to help resolve this problem. So Paul, I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'll see you soon. And to all your viewers, hey, thank you so much for listening. Come check out my video, my YouTube channel, Ken Cinema Sofa. And I look forward to shooting some movie reactions with you, Paul. See you later.